And now on to page 4. Again, good use of spot blacks and of textures. Let's get on to where I think the eye flow goes. To be honest, I'm not sure which direction this giant lobster is falling. I'm assuming that Nick wanted him to be falling this way, though I think that there was an opportunity to use these crates as an indication of motion. And I see a little bit of that here and here, but the direction that he's falling is just not that clear to me. So I think my eye flow goes here, and once we get to the main character's face, I have an instinct to go up off the page, although I know that that's not the direction it's supposed to go. It's just a little bit confusing. So there's a question here on which way to go. Then next we have a good, this is a good example of how you want to use the head turn of your character. He's looking directly down here, so that's where your eye goes. This gets into a little bit of confusion as well. It's good that we see the giant lobster here, and we follow the detail, and even the ship is pointing this way, but then we get to the main character, and I guess he's running this way. So we go from here to here, over, and then we might get a little bit lost on which way to go back. Once we get down to the next panel, the shape of the claws and tentacles do a good job of indicating that we should go here. Though again, we have him looking off panel, which is a little bit confusing, but the shape of his lasso kind of ropes us back in, and that's a pun. I didn't expect that. Okay, and that was unintentional. And then we head here to the last panel, and I think the biggest confusion is probably in the second panel, and maybe a little bit here in the fourth panel. So these were my suggestions. We have the indication of the plank and even the ropes leading our eye down this direction, and then we follow up to this tentacle, to this textured area, and we also, even though he's still kind of looking off the page a bit, it kind of ropes you into his arm down to this character's face. Then we keep the direction that he's looking here, follow this down, and then follow the direction that the main character is running over to the lobster. And then I added in the foreground a rope of some kind. I just figured it would be good as a way to get the eye back down to the next panel afterwards. Then we follow the rope in the direction that the main character is looking, and then we're out the page. And now we're on to page 5. This is probably, in my opinion, the weakest page of the portfolio, which is in a storytelling sense. It's actually rendered pretty well, and I like the action of the truck popping up off the ground and stuff. It has kind of a Sin City vibe to it. There's two big storytelling problems for the page, and then there's one tangent that threw me for a little bit of a loop. But let's take a look at the eye flow. Panel 1 here is a little bit confusing. I'm not sure of the location of the main character. What I mean is in relationship to background, and even he gets a little bit lost in the process. So my eye flow goes something like this. It goes here, then as I get over to this part is when I start to realize what's happening here. That's a little bit of that's confusing to me. Next we have every indication that this panel is telling us to go up off the page. That's in the direction of the screech is headed this way, in the direction of his jump. There's not a lot to get us back down to here. I actually go to here and then up off the page. So then we come back down this way, and this is where we see the tangent in the page, which is not a big deal, but it's something that should be avoided. The texture here in the bumper matches the overall shape of this tree here. On an almost subconscious level, when somebody is looking at this page, it is possible that they might see this bumper as something that is transparent, or that somehow the tree is linked to this, to the bumpers. And then we follow the horizon line. I come back down here to the lobster monster, and then back out to the page. So this feels like a little bit of a jolt to the reader, that it'll take them out of the comic book to figure out what is happening here. And then once we get down here to the last panels, we're kind of home free. It takes us right out of the page perfectly. But in my opinion, the problem with this page is the storytelling. Panel 1 is a little bit weak, and then 2 and 3 really jolts the reader. So let's take a look at what I think might make for a better page layout. Let's see, panel 1, I think primarily just having a spot shadow back behind this main character will help to pop him out, so that our eye will go straight across to him. And then as we get to panel 2, I figured a completely new angle might be in order here, where we have the direction of the wheels screeching, perhaps his lasso as well, all angling us around and then down to panel 3. As we get to panel 3, I figured we would cut in for a little bit more of an action shot. This feels more like something that you'd see in a movie, where we're looking kind of past the face of the main character down to where the lobster is, and then following the ground back over to the remainder of the panels. Although overall the technique of what Nick has done here, render-wise, looks fantastic. It's just these two panels, I feel, weaken the page. And with the revised layout, I think it might be a little bit more exciting, but for sure it'll be much more clear. And now we're on to page 6. This is probably my favorite page of Nick's whole portfolio here. Panel 1 does a good job of, even though it's vertical, of leading the eye all the way down the action, but then the direction of the lobster pointing your eye right back up to panel 2. Sometimes vertical panels like this can be difficult to pull off, but I think Nick did a good job here. Next, we have the eye flow that goes straight to this tech guy, down through panel 3, over to panel 4 quite well. And then we get down to panel 5, which is the only part of the page that I'd criticize, which is the direction of the action is going from right to left, and not just that, but we've also established this tech guy on the right-hand side of the panel, and here he suddenly flips to the left-hand side of the panel, and there's really no need to. So let's take a look at what I think might make for a better layout. In the first panel, I did a general increase in size so that you're zoomed in a little bit more to the entire panel. I specifically made the lobster quite a bit larger and made sure that it overlapped the edge of the truck to show a little bit more of what is in the foreground to make it very clear. And then I also made the tech guy in the background a little bit larger. Next, in panel 2, I made the tech guy a little bit larger as well, just bringing him a little bit closer to the camera to increase some of the size dynamics. The same thing, also making the truck just slightly larger so that we can get a little bit more of the details there. And then in the last panel, I flipped the composition. So let's take a look at the revised eye flow here of the new layout that I propose.